very happy for you to sit in between us.
I want attacking purposeful football all the time, and providing you had it up in that quarter, we had a real chance of winning it in that quarter. Now we've got our backs against the wall, we've got to fight.
Absolutely nailed it.
West Coast Eagles half-yearly report card. And you got to say, nobody picked West Coast to be going as good as they have.
Certainly not us.
Nope.
That's evidenced by our pre-season prediction of how they're going to do.
I think we predicted both the WA teams to drop off.
I predicted doom and gloom, and it's all going backwards.
Yeah,
I didn't
kind
have
of fucked that up.
I didn't have them inside the top 8, and right now I can't see them getting outside the top 4.
Yep.
They've lost their captain, retired last year, and then before the season started, they had a couple of key backs do their knees, and they're gone for the season. And they've come out and pasted everyone. Let's be honest.
On the back of a top-class midfield, they have looked very, very good.
Well, that's part of the thing I had a look at is even though they've had a horror run with injuries, especially towards key backmen, you have a look at their midfield, and if I can find my fucking cursor, have a look how many players have played all 12 games so far. You've got Cripps has been there, Hearn, Maston, Wellingham, Kennedy, Gaff, Natanui, Shui, Pritis, Lacroix. So they're top-tier players, besides their 2 key backmen in McKenzie and Brown, I think. Their top-line midfielders have all been there and down the spine.
Yep.
They've lost key backman, and McGovern has come out of nowhere and turned himself into... He's in all-Australian contention.
Yeah.
Selwood hasn't played every game, but they're not depending on him that much.
No, he's been very much impact type of player, and sort of one of the older heads when the younger ones were running around. Outside of those guys we just named that played 12 games, they've still got Elliot Yeo and Will Schofield, who have been killing it this year.
Yeah.
Who've only missed 1 game each. And that shows you just there that even though you've got some injuries, it's in the midfield and the running players, they're all still there and they're all firing for them at the minute.
And it seems like that class of recruits has just been stepping up this year across all teams. So you got the Bulldogs, you got St Kilda, who heavily recruited from the same draft as Yo, I believe.
Yep.
And they're the ones that are really stepping up. Seems like a really good class, whatever that was, or whatever coaches were doing that season.
They're coming good at the right time. And I mean, Matt Rose has just come back from injury as well. Jack Darling's only played the 2 games. Yeah. He's coming back from injury and he's clunking down some big marks. So
yeah, wasn't he?
Everything's positive for him.
I mean, the big one you've got to talk about is Pritis. Brownlow medal hangover, averaging nice little 30 possessions per game.
A lazy 30, over 30 possessions a game. You can't argue with that.
I don't think there's any... That would probably be around the top for all teams, I'd reckon. It'd certainly be around the mark.
If you wanted to be critical of him, you'd only say he handballs twice as much as he kicks. But having said that, you're really nitpicking.
There's still a fuckload of kicks and handballs.
Yeah,
So.
And the class of he is a in and under and go and get it himself type of player. Yeah, that's not really that much of a problem.
Yeah, his contested possessions, his ability to just be where he has to be and find a target is spectacular. I think he'd have to be looking at Nat Fyfe right in the eye for another Charlie.
Yeah.
The best win for the year so far. Who have you got that down for West Coast?
Got Geelong in round 9 as the best win.
Yeah, I had the same one.
Yeah, I think it was just a classy game against a classy opposition, and they just dominated them. I mean, almost won by 10 goals in the end, I think it was.
It should have been more. That's the only down point about that is, 16 goals, 24.
Yep.
And I think they kicked 10 points in a row at one stage.
Yeah, something like that.
It should have been, a 70 or an 80 or a 90 point thumping.
It should have been almost Geelong versus Richmond and wherever they put that pace into.
But look, they dominated the game from go to woe. There's no doubt about that one.
Yeah. Was it 40 scoring shots or something stupid like that?
I think it was exactly what it was, yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning round 1 too, because they beat Western Bulldogs by 10 points, but dominated the scoreboard, 14-13 to 14-3.
Yeah, it was actually the Bulldogs that kicked 14-13.
Yeah.
They lost that game.
Lost. Yeah. That was their tough loss then.
That was their tough loss. That's the next question.
Well, actually, no, I think pre-season form, you probably would have expected Bulldogs to win that one. I think their toughest loss was actually against North, because they probably should have won it.
Yeah, I mean, their only other losses was Freo and North, and the North game was horrible conditions down in Tassie.
That big boomerang kick that we saw, I think it was...
Might have been Harvey, or it was Harvey under it, one or the other.
No, it was a West Coast kick into the forward line and just did a right angle. It was unbelievable.
It's tough conditions, especially for blokes that are used to the nice, sunny and mild Perth, to go down and play in Arctic conditions in Tassie.
Yep.
It's a rough old trip, that one.
And they kicked 4-7 in the second quarter, I believe, which, I mean, really wasn't helping them at all. I think they were down. They kicked 1-3 or something in the first quarter. Close to that anyway. Then 4-7 in the second, which really could have set them up, but only kicked, got within 1 point in the last quarter.
They got close, but it was a real slog of a game. It's
Halfway through the fourth quarter, they probably had the run, they had the momentum. I honestly thought they'd run over North, but the conditions helped. Some inaccuracy at goal certainly helped. I think the last 3 scoring shots were West Coast points.
Yeah, when they had a chance to put it away. And there was, the sneaky tactics by Boomer Harvey and stuff like that, which, look, that's a veteran's privilege. I think some of those, that 50-metre penalty against, was it against Prittis too?
Against Prittis, yeah.
Yep.
Well, Prittis got tackled holding the ball, and then, Harvey just did that sneaky little veteran tap, and 50, and he got it. I don't think we'll get another 50-metre for the rest of the season. But,
especially when it was right in front of the cameras. That's what hurt the most out of it. So the top 3 players for him, I think Prittis is clear.
Threw him out of a hat, pretty much.
Yeah,
you have just as much reason to have them in there. But yeah, I had Prittis, Kennedy, and Lacroix.
I had Nat Nui in there just because of his consistency. He goes missing for a quarter or two here, but he's still brilliantly consistent.
He goes missing towards the forward line and kicks 5 goals.
He did have a quiet start to the year. I think it was he had 1 mark out of the first 4 or 5 rounds.
Yep.
But he's he's taking over from Dean Cox, who retired after last year. So he's got the majority of the rucking duties by himself.
Yep.
Nowadays, but he's done pretty well besides the quietish start.
Well, he's played all 12 games for a start, which is great because,
especially for him.
Yeah. He hasn't really had that sort of season before, and he's been able to read the play a little better. His worst games, on average, are getting better and better.
Yeah.
And his flashes of brilliance are just highlight reel worthy. It's unbelievable.
That's a good way of putting it, actually. His worst games are better than what they used to be.
Yes.
He's still having that up and down a little bit, but the downs aren't as deep. And he's taken Mark of the Year, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, bloody hell.
And I think he's also learnt how to best utilise the body that he has, which is it's not a heavy body. It's usually tough to straight up out muscle people, but he's learned how to pretty much jump over people and work around it, and also very good at sort of playing to himself. He's not going to beat people
to himself. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Was that what I said? Playing with himself. Sure, he's good at both. Anyway.
Yeah. Look, we're
Did I
trying
really
to
say that?
we're trying to pick the top 3 players. Look, I had Prittis, Kennedy, and then you could have any one of Shuey, Yo, Gaff, Maston, McGovern, Lacroix. It's just such a even contribution from them all.
Well, I had Kennedy for his sort of diligence in front of goals.
He's leading the Coleman.
Much improved, yeah. And Lacroix for picking up the slack for whatever Kennedy couldn't do. Lacroix's come in and I think he's kicked 20 over 20, yeah.
Well, they've got 4 guys that have kicked more than 20 goals. And I think they're second in the league for scoring or close to it.
But also, look how accurate they are. Like, they're all of them are kicking at least 2 goals to every point, which, it's damn good to have an average across the team.
Yeah.
Like, you've got, Kennedy's on 46-26, so he's about double. He's a little inaccurate.
I mean, that's including games where they've kicked 16 goals, 24 as well, and they're still one of those accurate teams. So
yeah. Well, having a look at AFL tables, which tells us 186 goals, 119 points. That's good kicking.
Yeah.
If they take Chris Masters 6 points straight out, they're looking even better.
Maston, yeah.
I think you just condensed them into 1 goal, so...
Yeah, you give him the 1 goal, you reckon?
Yeah, it's just grouping terminology, isn't it?
He earned it the hard way.
Yeah.
It's been such a balanced effort from across the board. Biggest improver for West Coast this year? Or biggest surprise?
I think, I don't know if you can say improver, but Yo.
Yo?
Yeah, his ability to just do what he does is unbelievable for a bloke his age.
And very consistent this year.
Stepping up when he needs to as well. I had Maston. I think he's not a new person by any means. I think he's year 5 or something like that. For
a few, might even be a bit more.
About that, but he stepped up his role, especially across half-back and pushing pretty much between the centre square. His work from that area of the field has been amazing, setting up going forward and being a solid sort of safety man in defence whenever the other team might get a bit of flow coming from counterplay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's turned from a handy player to a consistently good player.
Yeah.
And that's the exact kind of progression you want from those tough midfielders.
Yeah.
Look, I had Brad Shepherd down, who has been on the list for, I think, 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
But the most games he's ever played in the season before is 14, and he's played 12 from 12 so far.
Yep.
He's been really consistent, especially across half-back, where the Eagles have needed help in the back line.
Yeah.
And their other biggest improver or biggest surprise for me is Jeremy McGovern. He's a second-year player, and he's holding down that back line. He is their key backman.
I think that would have been a focus in the off-season training before this year for West Coast would be, we've got our forward line, that's all good, and our centre's all good. We need to consolidate this back line. So these are positions that are up for grabs, guys. Come in,
Yeah.
who wants it?
Well, especially with Mackenzie, who was unlucky to miss out on All-Australian
Yeah.
last year. They would have went, right, big year for you now, Mackenzie.
Yep.
And then, bang, there goes your knee. You're done for the season. See you later.
Yep.
It's horrible when a key position player goes down, but when you've got somebody who comes up and plays probably just as well,
Yeah.
it's happy days. Easy
Yeah.
days being a coach.
It's
isn't
horrible
it?
if we've got bloke that drops out, though, because he's like, fuck, am I getting
Am I
my job
back
back?
in?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I'm trade bait.
Well, all right, who needs to lift?
Who's in trouble for their career?
I don't think anyone's in career trouble, to be honest.
Well, I've got a couple.
Yeah?
I've said Scott Lycett, who, now that Cox is gone, he's the supposed to be the second ruckman, but I think Callum Sinclair's really overtaken him. And he's injuries and form and that kind of stuff. But he's going to find it really hard to get a game unless they're going to rest Nick Nat.
Yeah.
But Sinclair's the number 2 ruckman and quite comfortably at the minute.
Yep.
Lycett was, last year was trying to cement that spot, and I don't think he's done it.
Geez, you'd feel kind of bad playing through that second string, though, because Nat Nui comes along, he's a freak.
Absolute freak, yeah.
And Cox was the premier ruckman for
Yeah, the
better
last
part of
10
a decade. Living up to that would be damn tough.
It's hard. There's literally big shoes to fill.
Hmm.
And sorry, keep going.
I was gonna say, and West Coast, a lot of people are saying, they don't deserve to be top 4 or whatever. You look at their side, and there's at least 5-6 players who would walk into any side on the game. Like any team that says, "Oh, we don't want Nick Nat," they're lying.
Of course so.
Ditto Pritis, Shuey, Rosa, Kennedy.
Yeah. But the other player I had who was struggling was Xavier Ellis.
Yeah.
Only because he's been there 4 or 5 years now. He was troubled his last few years at Hawthorn with injuries, and
Yep.
it's followed him over there. He's just come back in. I think he's played 2 or 3 games so far this year, and he's done fine. But you've got to start to look at, you're a 10-year veteran now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of younger players, like the names you just read off, Yo
Yeah.
and Gaff and
Yep.
all the others who are coming through. You're not taking game time off them.
Yeah, exactly.
So at end of the year, he might be. I think he'll still be there next year, but it might be, mate. We don't see you as a 22 game player.
Could depend on if they have any shortcomings this year and how they look to address that next year as well.
If he gets another injury, you have to think he might have to jump before he gets pushed.
He's definitely a depth player rather than a best 22, and he's the only premiership player on their list as it stands.
Oh, there you go.
Which is, I always like those little
Yeah.
things. Danger games for the rest of the year for West Coast.
Freo round 20, I think, for no other reason that there's going to be a good finals
Tune up.
insight. Yeah.
See, I find that really interesting because in the last couple of rounds, Freo probably have a top 2 spot cemented. So I reckon they're more than likely going to rest people. They won't need to rest too hard because they're going to be playing in Western Australia anyway. But in the last 3 rounds, they probably will leave a few guys at home when they travel over to Melbourne. So they might drop 1, maybe 2 of those last 3 rounds. Then again, West Coast, knowing they're going to play them sometime in the finals, might go out and just try and destroy them.
And it also comes down to that second spot, like we're talking about with Sydney. It's going to be very tight coming towards the end of the season, and with tough games at the end, you might not be able to afford to drop those to get that home final.
The thing is, too, that's the week after Hawthorn, which will be a bruising match.
I'm going to say they've got 4 weeks. They got Sydney, then they get might be a hard game against Gold Coast. If Gary Ablett's playing, it's a hard game no matter what.
Yeah.
over there.
over there as well, which is the longest trip.
Yep. Then Hawthorn and then Freo. The good thing is they don't. 3 of those 4 games they don't travel, but that's where their danger is going to be, and their only danger is losing that top 2 spot.
Yeah.
And if they go 0-2 against, in that 4 weeks, if they go 1-3, they can't finish top 2. If they go 3-1, I think they're laughing.
Yeah.
And they'll take it away. Because that's it. I mean, there aren't really that many danger games for them. The danger is complacency.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's almost, if they don't get that second spot, it could almost be worthwhile getting 4th. So you play...
You're still playing Freo.
Yeah, playing Freo over in Perth. So it makes it really interesting that the tail end of this season for those people in the top 4 spots, because they might not be able to afford anyone because if that close, they need to win those last games to get the home final.
The good thing is their percentage is very healthy.
Yep.
And I can't see it going down because they have a very generous draw.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault they got a generous draw. It is what it is.
Because, I mean, at the start of the year, sort of picking them as, if they were playing someone else at this time of the season, you'd say that the other team has the generous draw.
Yeah. I think at the start of the year I said they would be just outside the 8. And right now, look, it's going to be hard to get them outside the top 2.
I predicted doom and gloom and all going backwards and made me look like an asshole.
So where do you think they'll finish then? How many wins?
Got to be in second spot. I think it'll play it where it lays at the moment.
WA 1-2?
Yeah, I've got the top 4 locked in.
Yeah.
I've actually got them in 6th because I reckon they'll drop a couple of easy ones. But I don't think it'll concern them too much. I think they're going to chase coming into finals with a clean injury list rather than trying to hit the top 2 spots and risk having a few important guys out.
Yeah.
The injuries that they've had, they've been able to cover. It's if there was more, that's going to be the thing. If they lose injuries through the midfield, which they've been fortunate with.
Yep.
But look, I've got them finishing 3rd. I think that a couple of those games, like you say, their strength so far has been they haven't lost. Besides the Bulldogs game, they haven't lost any of the ones they're not supposed to lose.
Yeah.
They've taken care of the sides below them. It's maybe that doesn't happen and they drop 1 or 2 or hosting Hawthorn and hosting Sydney and travelling away to Freo.
Yep.
I don't see them going 3-0 in those 3 games, but if they do, fuck it, they're second at the end of it.
Yeah.
You look at the second half of their season; they only travel 3 times.
It's not a bad effort.
Yeah, and the only thing is playing teams like St Kilda and Western Bulldogs who are young and a bit fearless, and they probably won't have anything to lose at the end of the season there, and so they can't afford to be complacent at home either.
And they're playing home in round 23, which is a good thing for them. So if they do have to travel in the first week of finals, at least they don't have to travel back to back.
And if it's inconsequential to their second and third place finishing, then, well, just let your players have a little rest.
Exactly.
Kick back.
The only weakness I can see is they don't play at the G again until finals.
Yeah.
But then again, their last game was against Richmond and they won that handily. So
I think that's one of 2 games they play at the G this year, or is it one of 1? Yeah, that's their only visit to the G in the regular season.
100% from the G, so maybe it's not a
bad. They
bad.
accounted for Richmond, comfortably enough. So yeah, I've got them finishing 3rd and maybe 4th if they drop a shaky one.
Yeah, but deep into the finals either way.
Yeah, absolutely. Top 4 double chance. They're going to play a home final.
Yeah, and good chance that even if they don't finish top 2, they'll play a home final as well. So.
And look, if something does happen and they fall off, they're setting up well for next year.
Yeah, aren't they?
Oh, they're entering a strong window for a premiership. They'll see a grand final in the next 3 years at least.
I think they're certainly going to give it a fair old shake. So if you're a West Coast Eagles supporter, it's been a happy 2015 so far, and it looks like it's going to continue.
And we're plainly admit we were completely wrong at the start of the season.
I think a lot of people were. All right, cheers guys. Enjoy the rest of the season.
All right.
Have a good 2015.